Good day, children. In video 1 of Going Places, you came across Sophie, a daydreamer who weaves a fantasy tale of meeting the Irish footballer Danny Casey at the arcade at Roy's and shares it with her brother Jeff to win his attention and admiration. Jeff shares the story with their father, who warns her that he would get into trouble for making up stories like this. We continue with video 2. The table lamp cast an amber glow across her brother's bedroom wall and across the large poster of United's first team squad and the row of coloured photographs beneath, three of them of the young Irish prodigy Cassie. "Promise you will tell no one," Sophie said. "Nothing to tell, is there?" "Promise, Jeff. Dad would murder me. Only if he thought it was true." "Please, Jeff." "Christ, Sophie, you are still at school. Cassie must have strings of girls." "No, he doesn't." "How could you know that?" he jeered. "He told me, that's how." As if anyone would tell a girl something like that. "Yes, he did. He isn't like that. He is quiet." "Not as quiet as all that, apparently." "It was nothing like that, Jeff. It was me spoke first when I saw who it was. I said, 'Excuse me, but aren't you Danny Casey?' And he looked sort of surprised. And he said, 'Yes, that's right.' And I knew it must be him because he had the accent, like when they interviewed him on the television. So I asked him for an autograph for little Derek, but neither of us had any paper or a pen. So then we just talked a bit about the clothes in Roy's window. He seemed lonely. After all, it's a long way from the west of Ireland. And then, as going, he said, if I would care to meet him next week, he would give me an autograph then. Of course, I said I would. As if he would ever show up. You do believe me now, don't you? He dragged his jacket, which was shiny and shapeless, from the back of the chair and pushed his arms into it. She wished he paid more attention to his appearance, wished he cared more about clothes. He was tall, with a strong dark face, handsome, she thought. "It's the unlikeliest thing I ever heard," he said. Jeff and Sophie are having a conversation in his bedroom, which has posters of his favorite team United and his favorite player Danny Casey. Sophie continues to weave a fantasy tale and narrate it to Jeff. She likes a promise from him that he would keep it confidential as her father would be annoyed. Jeff warns that Danny Casey might have several other girlfriends. She continues to narrate how she was window shopping at Roy's and accidentally she met their idol. She asked for Cassie's autograph, but neither of them had a paper or a pen, so he asked her to meet him the next week. Hearing all this, Jeff says that it's the most unlikeliest thing that he has ever heard. On Saturday, they made their weekly pilgrimage to watch United. Sophie and her father and little Derek went down near the goal. Jeff, as always, went with his mates higher up. United won 2-0 and Cassie drove in the second goal, a blend of innocence and Irish genius, going round the two big defenders on the edge of the penalty area, with the father screaming for him to pass and beating the hesitant goalkeeper from a dozen yards. Sophie glowed with pride. Afterwards, Jeff was ecstatic. "I wish he was an Englishman," someone said on the bus. "Ireland will win the World Cup," little Derek told his mother when Sophie brought him home. Her father was gone to the pub to celebrate. "What's this you've been telling?" Jancy said next week. "About what?" "Your Jeff told our Frank you met Danny Casey." This wasn't an inquisition, just Jancy being nosy. But Sophie was startled. "Oh, that." Jancy frowned, sensing she was covering. "Yes, that." "Well, yes, I did." "You never did," Jancy exclaimed. Sophie glared at the ground. Damn that Jeff. This was a Jeff thing, not a Jancy thing. It was meant to be something special just between them, something secret. It wasn't a Jhansi kind of thing at all. Tell Goki Jhansi something like that, and the whole neighborhood would get to know it. Damn that Jeff was nothing secret. It's a secret meant to be. I'll keep a secret, Soph, you know that. I wasn't going to tell anyone. There'll be a right old row if my dad gets to hear about it. Jhansi blinked. A row? I would have thought he would be chuffed as anything. She realized then that Jhansi didn't know about the date bit. Jeff hadn't told about that. She breathed more easily, so Jeff hadn't let her down after all. He believed in her after all. After all, some things might be sacred. It was just a little thing, really. I asked him for an autograph, but we hadn't any paper or pen, so it was no good. How much had Jeff said? Jesus, I wish I would have been there. Of course, my dad didn't want to believe it, you know. What a misery he is. But the last thing I need is queues of people round our house asking him, "What's all this about Danny Casey? He would murder me, and you know how my mum gets when there's a row?" Jhansi said hushed. "You can trust me, Soph. You know that." So Sophie, Derek, and their father sit down near the goal, while Jeff, as usual, went higher up with his friends in the pavilion. United won the match thanks to the Irish prodigy Danny Casey. The next week, and immediately after the match, Sophie and her brother return home and her father goes to the pub to celebrate. The next week, Sophie meets Jhansi and is surprised by the fact that Jhansi knows about her meeting with Danny Casey. So she's very angry because she had built up the story in order to win the attention and admiration of Danny Casey. Now she was angry with Jeff that Jeff had gone around and told somebody else. Jhansi says that Jeff had told her brother, and that's how she came to know about it. Sophie is worried, so Sophie conveys her worry to Jhansi. She says that if her father comes to know about that, then there would be trouble at home. During their talk, she's relieved to know that Jeff has not told about the date part of the story. Sophie explains to Jhansi that the meeting was incidental and she doesn't want anybody to know about it because her father would be annoyed. And it's always her mother who suffers the brunt of his anger. Jhansi assures Sophie that she can be trusted. After dark, she walked by the canal along a sheltered path lighted only by the glare of the lamps from the wharf across the water, and the unceasing drone of the city was muffled and distant. It was a place she had often played in when she was a child. There was a wooden bench beneath a solitary elm where lovers sometimes came. She sat down to wait. It was a perfect place. She had always thought so for a meeting of this kind, for those who wished not to be observed. She knew he would approve. For some while waiting, she imagined his coming. She watched along the canal, seeing him come out of the shadows, imagining her own consequent excitement. Not until some time had elapsed did she begin balancing against this the idea of his not coming. "Here I sit," she said to herself, wishing Danny would come, wishing he would come and sensing the time passing. "I feel the pangs of doubt stirring inside me. I watch for him, but still there is no sign of him. I remember Jeff saying he would never come, and how none of them believed me when I told them. I wonder, what will I do? What can I tell them now if he doesn't come? But we know how it was, Danny and me. That is the main thing. How can you help what people choose to believe? But all the same, it makes me despondent. This knowing I'll never be able to show them they are wrong to doubt me." She waited, measuring this way the changes taking place in her. Resignation was no sudden thing. "Now I have become sad," she thought. "And it's a hard burden to carry, this sadness. Sitting here waiting and knowing he will not come, I can see the future and how I will have to live with this burden. They, of course, will doubt me as they always doubted me. But I will have to hold up my head remembering how it was. Already I envisage the slow walk home and Jeff's disappointed face when I tell him he didn't come, the Danny, and then he'll fly out and slam the door. But we know how it was. I shall tell myself, Danny and me. It's a hard thing, this sadness. She climbed the crumbling steps to the street. Outside the pub, she passed her father's bicycle propped against the wall. She was glad he would not be there when she got home. So Sophie has created a story in her mind and she has started believing the story. So in her story, Danny has called her for a date. So Sophie waits for Danny Casey at her favorite spot along the canal beside the elm tree. She has always imagined such a perfect date. While waiting, she imagines Cassie coming along the river. She strikes a balance between her dream world and reality. The thought of Casey not coming starts making her sad. Sophie gets miserable at the thought of explaining to her family why the date did not work out. Jeff would be disappointed again with her, and all the others in her family would doubt her. She's unable to bear the sadness. She doesn't want to live with the burden of this truth. At the same time, she does not want to give up on her dream. Excuse me, but aren't you Danny Casey? Coming through the arcade, she pictured him again outside Roy's. He turns reddening slightly. Yes, that's right. I watch you every week with my dad and my brothers. We think you are great. Oh, well now, that's very nice. I wonder, would you mind signing an autograph? His eyes are on the same level as your own. His nose is freckled and turns upwards slightly. And when he smiles, he does so shyly, exposing teeth with gaps between. His eyes are green, and when he looks straight at you, they seem to shimmer. They seem gentle, almost afraid, like a gazelle's. And you look away. You let his eyes run over you a little, and then you come back to find them, slightly breathless. And he says, I don't seem to have a pen at all. You realize you haven't either. My brothers will be very sorry, you say. And afterwards you wait there alone in the arcade for a long while, standing where he stood, remembering the soft melodious voice, the shimmer of green eyes, no taller than you, no bolder than you, the prodigy, the innocent genius, the great Danny Casey. And she saw it all again last Saturday, saw him go past the lumbering defenders, heard the 50,000 catch their breath as he hovered momentarily over the ball, and then the explosion of sound as he struck it crisply into the goal, the sudden thunderous eruption of exultant approbation. So Sophie once again dreams of meeting Cassie at Roy's. She remembers asking for an autograph, but since they didn't have a pen, she imagines his physical appearance. She fails to differentiate her dream from reality. She keeps adding embellishments into this dream. She waits at the arcade for a long time, remembering Cassie's soft melodious voice and the brightness of his eyes like that of a gazelle. As Cassie was quite young, Sophie idolized him as a hero. Not only Sophie, the whole family idolized him. But she has seen him only in a match when he struck a goal. In fact, this was the only time she had seen Cassie from the pavilion when the match was going on. So as they were seated at the pavilion, she saw the approval he received from the spectators with a loud applause. And she too stands there and applauds him. So the truth is that this is the only time she has seen Danny Casey. So she never met him at the arcade, but she continues to weave her story. Thank you, children. That brings us to the end of video 2 of Going Places.